you talked about how we're moving into a new era of wide receivers, and the poster child for that right now is Justin Jefferson. He just broke the rookie receiving record, which was held by Randy Moss. He has 1,400 yards flat on the season, 7 touchdowns, and 87.5 yards per game, 88 receptions, and he didn't even start the first 2 games. He finished 7 games with 100 yards receiving, and even though he passed Randy Moss for most yards as a rookie, Moss in his first year in the league was an all-pro and had 17 touchdowns receiving. For as good as Justin Jefferson is right now, he has 7 touchdowns receiving. Randy Moss had 17 his rookie season. And Justin Jefferson also made the Pro Bowl this year as a rookie. He's only 21 years old, and I think definitely for me, like, I was wrong about him. I didn't think he was going to be this good. I thought he was going to be okay, but I didn't have him as my number 1 receiver ranked.
No, I don't think anybody did in such a strong receiving class. I mean, you could list off, a murderer's row of receivers, and I don't think that anybody would have had him at number 1. But, one thing that I think you could use it as an argument for him or against him this season, he also had to split those touches with Adam Thielen on the other side, who was another one of the best receivers in the NFL this season. So, yes, while it took some of the attention off of him and he didn't have to face the double teams that other receivers might have to face, or, the double teams that he would have had to face had he not had Adam Thielen on the other side, Adam Thielen also had a crazy statistical season, which took away from his numbers. So, overall, I think he had an incredible year. I just saw a video on TikTok a couple of hours ago of the Vikings war room. And right before their pick was the Eagles, they took Jalen Reagor.
Stop.
Not to rub it in, but they were already thinking about different picks. They were talking about cornerbacks, and the pick came in, and they just started laughing. Like they were, they couldn't believe that he fell into their hands, and it was the best thing for him. Now he goes into that offense. He was a perfect fit there. They had that 2 wide receiver system last year, so he slid right in. And it just happened to be the perfect marriage for both of them. He's a technician. His route running is out of this world for a rookie. And I can't wait to see where his career goes from here.
I remember this day like it was like yesterday. I remember me and Joel was talking about the draft, and Joel was giving me like 15 to 20 receivers. Like he was breaking the draft down for me. He's like, this guy. I remember he told me about Jalen Reagor. I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy into what Joel's talking about. Jalen Reagor's this, that, and the third. And then I heard about Justin Jefferson, and I was just like, why shouldn't we pick this guy? I feel like this guy could be better. We picked Jalen Reagor. They get Justin Jefferson. Season later, we see how that works. This guy, he's just incredible. He's a great player, and I like how he plays. But like you said, Adam Thielen helps him out. But the same can be said for Chase Claypool. The same could be said for CeeDee Lamb. Like there's other rookie receivers who play, like Davon Mooney. I know people like him in Chicago. He has a number 1. So there's other guys who benefit from these other receivers. I think this guy just showed that he's probably going to be their number 1 receiver for years to come. I think he surpassed Adam Thielen in a sense. I think other guys still got to get it going. Like CD, he benefited with Michael Gallup and Mari Cooper. So I think that's a knock on him in a sense, but I think
it's more, shows, how for him to have that season with Adam Thielen on the other side. I think he's the only guy that really was at least neck and neck with that star wide receiver that he had, rather than you look at guys like CeeDee Lamb. He had statistically the 3rd best season on that team. Around the league, other rookie wide receivers had great years, but their numbers were nowhere near on par with a guy like Adam Thielen. Justin Jefferson was that dude up as a top 10 receiver in the league this year. Not rookie receiver, a top 10 receiver in the league this year. So, like you said, it could be a knock on him, but I think it just shows more how developed he is at this age. The fact that they trusted him with that many targets, that many big plays, I think it goes to show how far advanced he is at this point.
When you trade a receiver as good as Stephon Diggs, you don't know if you're going to replace that production. And they did that and more. Like they replaced Stephon Diggs with somebody who I think is probably better than Justin Jefferson. And the biggest knock of him coming out of the draft was that he played with Joe Burrow. And I think what really hurt his draft stock was that in the national championship game, the guy who stole the spotlight was Jamar Chase.
Yeah, a lot of people said he wasn't even the best receiver on his team.
Was the guy who stole the spotlight, Jamar Chase, who's going to be in the draft this season. And Justin Jefferson kind of was in the shadow of Chase that game.
You know what's funny about that, though? That's kind of like what happened to Devontae Smith in Alabama last year when he was playing with that big receiver. And then this year he showed out that he might actually be the best out of all of them.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's the thing with Justin Jefferson. That's why I think his draft stock kind of went down a little bit. But, I mean, this receiver class as a whole was phenomenal. I don't think Jerry Jeudy has gotten a fair shot yet, but I think he's a good receiver. Henry Ruggs, the thing about Henry Ruggs is that he had a high bust potential because we kind of knew he's only mocked this high because he's super fast, right? And he hasn't been that guy. He's been hurt. He hasn't been that guy. But then you look at Denzel Mims, who's been really good for the Jets, and he hasn't really played much. But you look at Chase Claypool, you look at a guy like Darnell Mooney, who's been phenomenal. And there's a list of guys I can name too. CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Laviska Shenault. You have a guy that I think once he gets his shine, he's going to be really good. Van Jefferson with the Rams. Like, there's a bunch of guys, a bunch of rookie receivers. Gabriel Davis with the Bills. Like, this receiving class was stacked. It really was. And for Justin Jefferson to be the best one, not only in this receiver class, but he's probably a top 7 wide receiver right now. It shows a lot. It really does.
Yeah, I just can't get over the fact that, like I said before, he wasn't just a great rookie receiver. Like, he was a great NFL receiver this year. And, you know, I know a lot of people go through that sophomore slump, but a lot of the things that he does are not something that changes. Like, he is just a spectacular route runner, and that's not something that's going to change next year. And that's the toughest thing to guard in a receiver. You know, I know athleticism is a thing that catches more of the eyes, but route running is what gets you open, and he did that consistently this season. And
if you want to watch just how good Justin Jefferson is, I wouldn't even say just watch the games. I'd say go on YouTube, search up Justin Jefferson, Brett Coleman. Brett Coleman does like a great breakdown on Jefferson, his route running, which you just mentioned, but also how he studies the game and he studies opposing cornerbacks to when he matches up with them. And he just breaks it down perfectly, and it just goes to show how much work Justin Jefferson puts in and week out, not only on his technique, but also on his film study and how he does analyzing these opposing cornerbacks that he's going to get matched up with.